I'd like to start with Dr. Pressley. If you were to be elected to the Austin City Council, what would the city look like at the end of your 3-year term?
It's working. That's a wonderful question. Because of my business background, I was in the semiconductor industry here in Austin for 17 years, and I was the gross margin manager for their networking business, or $1 billion business. What I see the city looking like when I'm done after 3 years is a more efficiently run city. There are business practices in the private sector that the city of Austin doesn't even know about. There are lean business practices that all of the companies in Austin have to employ to become more efficient, and I would try to implement those and bring those ideas to the water utility, to Austin Energy, to all of the large departments, and I think it's really needed. We spend instead of cutting costs and looking at what we can do as a city council and government to become more efficient, more lean, and that's what I see.
Thank you. Councilman Martinez, in your tenure on the council, could you give us 3 examples of accomplishments that you're particularly proud of?
Sure. I think one of the things that I like to often remind folks of is it's not just about what you do at the council, but it's also about the things that you prevent that are not good for the city. And being able to stand strong in the face of political pressure, sometimes neighborhood pressure, constituent pressure, and ensure that something does not move forward that you believe could be harmful. I was proud to do that in a lot of some development cases that have come before City Council to remove the waterfront overlay cap on height along Lady Bird Lake. In East Austin neighborhoods, when we wanted to put the animal shelter in place, I was the only council member to vote against another city industrial facility being placed in East Austin. I stood strong in moving forward with the purchase of the Oak Springs, which is the only natural Oak Springs in East Austin, to purchase that out of private hands to ensure that its preservation be maintained forever by the city. It's not just about Barton Springs and West Austin. It's also about the rest of Austin, and I've been a strong voice for all of Austin.
Mr. Martinez, I'll start with you. A lot of folks are talking a lot about how Austin is becoming an unaffordable city. The suburbs are growing, the city of Austin. A lot of people are moving out because they can't afford it. What can you do as a council member to make life more affordable in the city of Austin?
I think we have to maintain a lean budget during budget times, but at the same time, we have to take advantage of tools that are available to us to help folks get relief from escalating property taxes. We have one of the lowest property tax rates of all major cities in Texas, but as you all know, we have one of the highest property values. In East Austin specifically, I've worked to implement the Homestead Preservation District, which would actually essentially cap taxes moving forward for any resident, any long-time resident that qualified, who would want to enter into the Homestead Preservation District. For someone like myself and my wife, who are building a new home on East 11th Street, we would pay 100% of our taxes at the appraised value. Our neighbor, our adjacent neighbor, who entered into the district, would be capped moving forward. And so, bringing in the folks that want to move to Austin, want to take advantage of this great city, but at the same time preserving those that have been here for a long time, is absolutely a tool that I believe we should employ to create more affordability.
Dr. Pressley, same question. How would you make Austin more affordable?
So there are a couple of ways. One of them is I am proposing a homestead exemption, a city homestead exemption. That we have our county homestead exemption. This will be on top of that. A lot of large cities do this. The council's been asked for years to implement this, and I would completely support that and drive it. The other piece is our electric rates. Again, Austin Energy, this electric rate increase, which we may get to later, I think Austin Energy ought to be expected to cut costs year on year, a 5 to 10% reduction in expenses. Large companies in Austin Energy is a $1 billion entity. Our big businesses here, they do this year on year, and I would expect the council and set those agendas to expect cost reductions in water utility and Austin Energy, and those are not being done right now, and that would be a change.
I guess my follow-up to you is, how can they cut costs if we're asking these utilities to also try to put forth more green initiatives, which tend to cost more, and we're trying to make this a more energy efficient city as well?
Okay, so I'll give you an example. I on the recent electric rate increase. And I sat down with Larry Weiss, and he's the CEO of Austin Energy, and I said, Larry, why aren't you doing some lean business practices where you're cutting costs year on year? He told me, I don't have the bandwidth. That means he doesn't have the time to go cut costs, but he has the time to go propose increases for our electric rates. They need $100 million. That's 10% of their budget. If they did that year on year and you did it every year, you'd be able to get there. Right now, it's not expected. He doesn't have the bandwidth. That's unacceptable.
All right, this question I'll start with Mike Martinez. According to KVU and the Austin American Statesman, both the panelists, but not KLBJ, that's coming up, has revealed that in the last 5 years, the city of Austin paid out more than $14.6 billion to settle claims against city departments. On top of that, both KVU and the Statesman found the city spent an additional $6 million during that time hiring outside legal counsel to settle claims. Are you willing to say today that you adopt a no-settle policy?
No, I can't, Jeff. But I absolutely am willing to stand before you and say that I will stand against settlement if I believe it needs to go to trial. In fact, so much so that it has cost me a lot of support in this re-election effort. As you all know, very controversial shooting in East Austin with Nathaniel Sanders, and I actually voted to not settle. I didn't believe that we should settle for the amount that was proposed. Maybe there was a settling point, but there were some major key points that have never been made public because they've only been had, the conversations have only been had in executive session. Many of these conversations that you're referring to in terms of the lawsuits happen in executive session. We are a $1.5 billion corporation, even though we are a government, and we can't preclude folks from filing suit against us. We've received many lawsuits over many different issues. I can't unequivocally agree to a no settlement policy, but I assure you that this council takes everything into account when making these decisions.
A quick follow-up. Are you saying that during this past 5 years and during your time on the council, do you think the city's policy of settling more often than not is a mistake?
All I can speak for are the votes that I took, and I believed in the votes that I took to settle certain cases. I believe they were done in the best interest of the citizens, weighing the risks that would come if we took it to trial and the potential cost for further litigation and the potential loss of that lawsuit. So in my position and the votes that I took, yes, I believe they were in the best interest of the citizens.
Dr. Pressley?
First of all, I'd like to correct my opponent. Our budget for the city of Austin is $2.7 billion. It's not $1 billion. It's almost 3x that. So with regard to the settlements, I would have to do some analysis on the root cause of why we're settling and why we're having these lawsuits. In the private sector, what you would do, you would go back and say, is there any commonality here? What are we doing wrong? What are we doing to not prevent these things? And that to me, it's kind of after the fact, the settlements. What are we doing? What are we not doing correctly? And that's where I would focus, because that's the future. That's going forward. And prevent these lawsuits from coming to us. Do everything we can with all these departments and find out where the risks are in each department from a legal standpoint, instead of after the fact to pay, out the roof for what we're doing potentially wrong if people bring lawsuits.
But 30-second follow-up. Would you take a position as a council member in terms of outside counsel, outside consultants? Would you take a position today that you would be against hiring anyone outside the city?
It depends on the expertise. If we don't have the expertise, you have to do it. So I think it depends.
Depending on expertise in what regard?
Legal expertise or technical expertise.
Of course, the follow-up then would be, why are they employed by the city?
I agree with that. That's part of my cost-cutting proposals. If we don't have who we need, why are we having the people we do have if they're not serving us as we need? Yeah.
On the transportation issue, you heard us ask the mayoral candidate. I want to ask you the same question. You drive I-35 today, Ms. Martinez?
I did not have the pleasure, but I crossed there and coming in from East Austin.
Did you drive I-35 today?
I sure did.
Did you enjoy it?
Not at all. It was at lunchtime, and I think about 50 to 60% of the traffic are large trucks, commercial trucks. And I looked at that and I kind of quantified it visually.
Okay, what are your notions about what can be done to improve, what the city can do to improve traffic, not only traffic flow, not only on 35, but all over the city? We'll start with you, Dr. Preston.
Great question, and this is one point that I've been bringing up in this whole campaign is the 130. And like Bridget said, we were sold a bill of goods. 130 was supposed to be commercial traffic taken off of I-35. If that were happening, I-35 and about 40 to 50% were big trucks today when I was on I-35 at lunchtime. And you would relieve that traffic, and then you would also relieve MOPAC because people go to MOPAC because I-35 is backed up. So it's kind of this domino effect. We could negotiate and very judiciously work with TxDOT on getting them on 130. You'd relieve 35, you'd relieve MOPAC. It would be huge, and we wouldn't have to spend the millions and millions of dollars on new roads or increase our debt with these bonds. To me, it's a very logical solution. We didn't get the commitment that we were promised, and I'd say we go back and we try to work that.
I just don't see how you can make, I mean, it sounds like a great proposal, move all the truck traffic over to 130, but how do you reduce your bond debt at the same time when you're putting traffic on a road that's in debt? Billions of dollars. If you're going to make that proposal, you need to be honest with the folks you're talking to and say, matter of factly, it's going to cost you. We're either going to raise your gas taxes or we're going to raise your property taxes because the debt on SH 130 is still there. It will remain there until it's paid down. If you think those folks that lent us the money to build SH 130 are going to go, we'll take care of Boston. You got a little traffic problem. Don't worry about paying us. You're out of your mind. It's not going to happen. We have to work on a multimodal transit system, which is what I've been doing since being on the council. As chairman of Cap Metro, I absolutely believe we need public transportation and improve public transportation. Folks need to have alternatives to just a single individual in their own personal vehicles going from point A to point B. I realize this is Texas, and I realize this is Austin, and we have not been the best as it relates to public transportation. When I talk about transportation, I talk about roadways, bikeways, sidewalks, and public transportation.
Make a follow-up.
Yeah. Just brief, one minute.
The bottom line is 130 is not being utilized. That business model is not working. We do not need to build more roads when we've got one that's sitting there with nothing on it. That is an absolute outrage. And from a business standpoint, that doesn't make any sense. So we have to figure out a solution, get 130 utilized more. It's much cheaper than building new roads because it's already sitting there. Very logical.
Okay, we're going to move on to the rapid fire questions, and these really are yes or no answers, please.
She's not kidding this time.
Okay, first one. Should Austin Energy's market be open to competition? Yes or no?
No.
Do you favor completing water treatment plant 4 at its current location?
Yes.
No.
Are public employee salaries competitive?
Yes, going to help negotiate.
I said they are competitive.
Would you support creating a task force, actually the mayor's already said on aging, and I guess, how do you feel about it? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Have municipal task forces been effective in the past?
Somewhat.
No. And I support the task force if they're volunteer. We're not paying them.
Would you support a charter change to have all Austin mayor and council elections on a uniform election date in November of even-numbered years, which is the least costly and ensures maximum turnout of registered voters in Austin?
Yes, I did, and I will again.
Yes.
And then do you support downtown urban rail as proposed by the city of Austin?
I support urban rail that hasn't been proposed.
No.
Okay, so each one gets 1 minute to wrap up. Mike Martinez, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you all so much for being here tonight and for hearing from us and learning more about each of us as candidates. I've been a council member for 2 terms. I'm running for a 3rd term. Most of you know I serve in the Austin Fire Department as a firefighter and the president of the Firefighters Association. We've got a lot of great things going on here in Austin, but we are not perfect. And I'll be the first person to tell you that we're not. So there's more work to do. I'm honored to have had the support in the past from the Homeowners Association to once again have it again this time. We have over 23 endorsements. We have broad community support from neighborhood groups, former neighborhood presidents, to business leaders in this community, development leaders in this community, and I think that Austin is on the right track. We need good, strong leadership, and I ask for your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. This is a wonderful event, and I appreciate your time. I spent 17 years in the semiconductor industry after getting my PhD in chemistry from the University of Texas at Austin as a single mother. And over those 17 years, I worked as a yield engineer, becoming, I actually kept jobs in Austin. That's basically what I did for 17 years. I kept dirt off of wafers so that we could become more financially stable industry and compete with Asia. So my background is business. I have my own small business, and with my technology background, right now there's nobody on the council that has a business, finance, small business, and technology background, and we need it desperately. There are a lot of decisions that are being made that the city council members depend on the staff for information. We need to have that expertise sitting on the dais, and I